Have you ever heard of backstitching on a serger? Well, today I'm going to go over the 3 different ways I backstitch on my serger. Hi, I'm Christina, and I love to digitally apparel pattern, creating unique pieces of wearable art. And I am so excited to share with you today how I backstitch on my serger. It's one of those things that everybody does it a little bit differently, and everybody has their own ways of doing it. But locking in your serging so that it doesn't fray on you or your little ends don't get a little bit messy is always a good way to go. So let's move on over to the serger and get started.
The first one is the one that I was first taught, and I think is the most common one everybody knows. You do your regular serging like you normally would, leaving long tails on each end. That way you have something to work with. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to grab a needle with a large eye so that we can easily feed our threads through. I always like to fold the threads over, and I'm not working with every single little end, but kind of a bulk of thread to go through the eye, and then I feed it through the eye. I always find with the serging it gets caught really easily, and it's just kind of a little cranky. But then once you have it fed through, I then like to feed the eye of the needle back through some of the already serged on the fabric. I find that it's easier to deal with than trying to feed the pointed or other end of the needle through. Then you get it pulled all the way through. You de-thread your needle, and then you clip your thread nice and close, making sure that it is not pulled too tight, pulling in that corner. And then we're just going to clip it right next to where it popped out through the serging. That way that tail is completely encased within the serging, and it won't unravel or do anything funky. So I'm going to show you it again on the other side. So I'm going to start by folding my serging in half, feeding it through the eye of the needle. Pull all that thread through. I got some long tails that are giving me some problems, so I'm just going to snip them off to hopefully not cause me problems once I'm threading it through. Then what I'm going to do is use the eye of my needle side and just thread in between the serging and the fabric that's already there. And I go at least 5 stitches. Sometimes if it's working with me really well, I'll go more. And then I will pull it all the way through. And then once it's pulled all the way through, you want to make sure that the end of it isn't being pulled in at all or skewing your fabric. And then we're just going to cut as close as we can to that serging. And it does create a very nice serge knot. It looks great. It holds. I do recommend that way. It just takes the longest. The next one I'm going to show you, you can only do on the starting end. So you're going to serge a little bit. I like to do 3 to 5 stitches, and then I pull my serge. I lift up my foot. I pull my serging nice and taut, and then I wrap it around, making sure that you're not pulling so much that you are skewing your corner. And then you're going to serge over that tail, cutting off the excess tail. Again, you can only do this really on the start of the serging, and it does look fairly nice. You know, the longer you sew or the longer you serge, the bigger loop that you'll have that is free. So I will show this once again on the other side. So what we're going to do is we're going to serge a couple of stitches. I went a few too many that time. You want to make sure your needles are down. You want to pull your serging so it's nice and flat. Wrap it around so that it will be serged over next. Make sure that that tail gets cut off and serge all the way. Again, you can only do it at the very beginning of your serging, and as you can see, I did a little bit too many serging because I have a pretty big loop here, but it's still condensed. It's still going to stay. And I don't find that causes too many problems, but it does cause that loop looking thing that's not the best. Now we're going to move on to the third way. So this way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start serging in the opposite direction that I want to be serging my seams together. So I'm going to do a couple of stitches, and then I'm going to make sure my needles are up, and then I'm going to pull my serging off of these 3 fingers. I don't think you can really see them in this look, so I'm going to get a better picture of them in a minute so you can see what fingers I'm talking about. But you want to release the threads from those fingers so that you can then pull your fabric a little bit and flip it upside right. And then you want to make sure that serging will get cut off. And you're going to then serge all the way down that edge. And then when you're serging, this is how you can backstitch on the other end. You're going to make sure that your needle is up. You're going to lift your foot up. You're going to make sure that the thread is off those 3 fingers. You're going to lock your cutter so that it won't cut any of your serging off. And then you're going to serge a little bit, and then you're going to twist and serge it off. I think this one looks the nicest. I did go a little bit too far because I have a little bit of serging off the ends, but that does not bother me at all. And I really like this one. I almost always use this one when I can because I feel it is the fastest and most efficient. So the 3 fingers that I'm talking about are these 3 right here. So you can see there's kind of a 1, 2, 3 fingers. Those are the fingers you want to make sure the thread kind of gets unlooped from. Because if you don't, it's just going to cause a little bit of problem. So you just want to pull that serging just a little bit so it's off of those 3 fingers and flip it. So I'm going to pull it off the 3 fingers, flip it, and then I'm going to recenter it underneath there as close to the fabric as I can. Make sure your foot's down, and then you're going to sew your seam all the way down. Then you're going to make sure that you lock your cutter so that you don't cut your threads. You're going to pull it off of those 3 fingers, flip it, and serge just a little bit. You can serge right off. It gives it just a little bit of skew if you want it to look really nice. Lift your foot, turn your fabric 90 degrees, and serge again because it'll get that really nice crisp off looking. Look at how great that looks. Those are my 3 ways I like to serging backstitch.
And there we have it. Those are the 3 ways I love to backstitch on my serger. I would love to know which way you have done before or you are looking forward to try. So let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe so you can see other fun ways to use your serger or digitally apparel pattern your next amazing piece of wearable art. I look forward to seeing you in some of my other videos. Happy sewing!